Is this your guild? Is this your guild? What about this guild? If so, you're my kind of people. I'm Sham, I'm a raid leader for Fates Reforged on Silver Moon EU. So if your goal's cutting edge, these guides and videos probably not going to be for you, but you may still glean some information. So Midcore for me describes all of the guilds who will get AOTC by the end of the current patch cycle, and also potentially dip your feet in some early mythic progression as well, but ultimately not going all out to get cutting edge. Now, one of the issues I often find as a raid leader for a midcore team is finding the resources are optimized for me, for my team, for the middle of the pack. Now, this is in absolutely no way a knock at all the other guide makers out there. Their resources are absolutely great and they're really informative, and they do form a basis of what we look at. However, I also find they are driven from a mythic slant, from those who are pushing CE, and the advice then does slightly change because of the gearing options that are available to us. Early season, we see the gap between the advice being quite big between mythic and mid-core. The advice will change based on how the season progresses. Now, mythic teams obviously will be killing mythic bosses early, nature of the beast. However, we won't have that access and that option available to us. So a good example of this will be looking at your first crafted item. I see a lot of my own raiders looking at the device, looking at the BIS lists, and that BIS list for us isn't quite right. We'll touch on this in a bit more detail in a different video, but the advice I would give my raiders would be different than crafting an off piece that's a bracers, for example. So why do we care? Why as a mid-core guild do we want to put all this effort in ultimately to get AOTC? Because we can get AOTC by the end of the patch with either nerfs on Blizzard, with either progressive buffs through the system as we see, and previously we had renown tracks doing it as well, and gearing over time will obviously just get bigger and bigger and bigger. At Fates we have a lot of very good players who could be in mythic guilds, but due to real life commitments it isn't the choice they've made. They want to be at this level. So for myself and as a guild, what we have always done is pride ourselves on trying to get the kills as fast as possible. Now this doesn't mean we're chasing, any mythic guild down anytime soon, but this just means that we want to be more efficient with our time. And that will allow us then to foster a happier environment where we're coming up against less brick walls, less frustrating pools, and just getting through to that end goal of getting AOTC early. We will typically chase AOTC within the first 4 resets, this season being a slight different one because of the split release. Once we do that, we will then go into Mythic and we will look at some early Mythic bosses. For example, Maniforge Omega, before the pre-season patch came in, we got up to 5 out of 9 in Mythic. So what is the goal of this channel? What am I trying to achieve here? These guides that will be coming out are going to be primarily to help both raid leaders and raiders and make smart choices starting day 1 of the season. I'll be covering topics such as gearing, looking at crafting, we'll look at spreading crests, and also throughout the patch cycle, if there's any changes or Blizzard hotfixes that come in, how do they affect your average heroic guild? If you're interested, then please subscribe to the channel and join me along in this journey, and I'll see you down the road.